What's up, fight fans? Mr. Mustache here. All right. Dana White kind of made, a big announcement. I think it was this morning. The UFC Apex, they are now going to be the Meta Apex or UFC Meta Apex. They have signed a 5-year deal with the UFC to rename their stadium, which only just goes to show that they're only going to be pushing forward and not stepping back at all from these Apex cards. He's calling it the home of Zuffa Boxing. He's continuing it to call it the home of the Dana White Contender Series, which it has been, right? But it just goes to show that they're not going to shy away from it, and that they're not going to be taking more steps toward more populated cards, right? In stadiums, whatnot, arenas, not stadiums, arenas. It's just tone deaf, right? Nobody cared to hear that. I'm sure Meta is investing a lot of money within that, which is probably the best case scenario, that there's, a good amount of dollars being put into the company. I don't know if Meta is going to have anything to do with the new camera angles that apparently Paramount is going to be introducing into these new events. And if that's the case, that's pretty cool. Maybe some extra funding towards some different perspectives on how the fight can be viewed as a fan, right? Talking about getting rid of commentary and things like that. Which, it would be nice to have the option, because there's just times where the commentators are just not on, DC is just half the time, you can just tell he's not invested. Joe Rogan, you can tell he just hasn't followed with the times with these fighters. He's just stuck in his old ways. You can see he's not invested. He's not putting in the time to research these new guys. And you have Jon Anik, who, for me, I like John. There's just times where he's just too vanilla for me. He is the most professional. He is probably the most talented as a color commentator. I mean, like, across the board. There's sometimes where it's just, his style can be a little bit too much for me, and it's very just robotic in a sense for myself. And I know I'm probably in the minority on that. But John is a great fucking color commentator. That's just my own little personal tidbits I have with some of the. It's gonna be Mickey Mouse, I guess. So I guess I feel like it's wrong for me to even have really any sort of to criticize Jon Anik in any way, because that's a tough fucking job to have. But they have guys like Brendan Fitzgerald, who's phenomenal. John Gooden, who's absolutely fucking phenomenal. You got Bisping, who's phenomenal. Felder, Cruz, Lorisenko, who is growing on me over the years. So you have good teams, but I would like the option to not have commentary on. And let's say I'm doing a fight companion and I got buddies over, and I can't tell them, hey, we have to have the volume off, or one of us has one AirPod in, another has another AirPod in. It could be a better viewing experience for everybody across the board. Fans, content creators. It works, right? And now apparently they're experimenting with other camera angles and things like that we can be switching through as the viewer. I like that. That's going to be a really cool perspective. I liked what PFL did with the ref cams and whatnot. My wife loved that too. So I think that would be a really cool perspective to get into moving forward. But the whole Apex stuff, hate it, tone deaf. Dana, you seem uninspired, bud. I don't know what it is going on. I feel like, deep down, the company was sold. It's run by different people now. And in a sense, right, he doesn't have the control and power that he probably once had. And it's showing, And I'm interested to see what he's going to do in his Zuffa Boxing. But just the Dana White that we've been getting, the Izzy versus Joe Pyfer announcement was just like, eh. And it was going to be this big announcement. It was big for Joe. Right? Right? I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the walls in this video. This is mainly specifically about the meta stuff. But I don't know. I think it's just tone deaf. Maybe I'm being a negative Nancy about it. I don't know. And with going into Paramount, this is one thing I definitely want to say. This is new for Paramount, right? And I expect some bumps along the road. So fans, let's take into consideration this first card, maybe first 2-3 cards, we might have some technical difficulties. So let's be patient with the company. Hopefully that they go out there and do their due diligence. But I expect a lot of traffic coming in on these fights. First card, I expect servers to be crashing. So let's go in this with, you know, fair and reasonable expectations to something that's new and fresh to us, and new and fresh to them. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on everything on that. I'm going to be talking about Izzy and Joe Pyfer on a different video, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. But that's going to do it for today, guys. Mr. Mustache, MMA News out. Let's fucking go, fight fans.